Hello again, and welcome to our latest installment in the Mortal Online 2 Newbie Guide series. Today, after many requests, we'll be diving into crafting, one of Mortal's most robust systems. I do want to preface this video by saying that while crafting is in-depth for Mortal, I am more or less not an expert at it. The purpose of this video will be to teach you the basics and leave discovery and wonder to you. So again, this is going to be a very top-down, broad video to get you started, but let's get into it. Now, if you want to be mostly a crafter, that's what you want to focus on. Your race and stats play a large part of it. The two best clades for crafting will be Augmere and Human. Human gets solid extra clade gifts that help them with lures and other crafting skills, as well as solid attribute point spread. Augmeres get a lot of solid crafting and refining perks, and can also get very, very high intelligence, which brings me to my next point. Intelligence is the most crucial stat when it comes to crafting. With high intelligence, you'll gain attribute skill points to most crafting skills, which will give you extra points to put into more primary crafting skills. In a perfect world, I would lean towards a very high int based mage as my crafter. Once you have your character mapped out, it's time to get down to business. This guide will assume we're starting our adventure in Haven, but keep in mind most mid to late game materials will not be available in Haven, as well as many specialized crafting books that you will need to seek out in the world. The basic premise for crafting is as follows. Find materials, bring materials back to town, refine, if necessary, materials at town, and then craft items out of the materials. I'll assume at this point you've watched our previous newbie guide to Haven, so I'll pick up a bit from there. You may notice zombies, and most animals, drop carcasses and other materials, but here we can see walking dead carcass is the primary material they drop, but in its base form it's extremely heavy. Sometimes while out farming, you will need to butcher or cook materials to conserve weight. Simply right click and hold down to butcher. In the bottom left, we can see we learned a bunch of skills. Let me pull this up. So we gained a new skill, skinning knife, new skill, zoology, new skill, mammalia, Evercanta, primata, simia, material lore, animal material, skeleton lore, endoskeleton, and bone tissue lore. And then our butchery skill and extraction went up. If you press L and go to our profession skills, we can see the effects here. As your skills go up in the lures and your extraction processes, the more materials you'll get and the better you will be at using those materials to craft. So to be the best crafter at something, you're going to need to max the lures with the respective materials you're using. Now out of the zombie, we got walking dead meat and bone tissue. But if we were to bring this back to town, we would get different materials. Let's showcase that. Now we're at the butcher table. Let's see what using the table does for us. Simply hit the use key on the table and add the material and hold to butcher. We can see it produced the same materials plus a new material, emulge. Using the butcher table also increased our lures at what seemed to be an accelerated rate. Another way to increase your lore of materials or animals is by cooking their carcasses. To cook, press L under the profession tab, click show all skill icons, drag the cooking pot to your bar, and then press the button. Here we'll add the walking dead meat and hold to cook. Now, we already had our material lore and our endoskeleton lore at max, so we didn't gain any lore from that, but we did gain cooking skill. I know it asks for a cooking tool here, but that's not necessary for the purpose of just gaining lore. Crafting items in this game can sometimes take only one material, or multiple materials for each different part. We're going to skip ahead in this video, and I'm going to chop some trees in Haven, as well as mine some granum rock. Once we have a steady base of both, we'll go to the crafting tables to see what we can put together. While mining, we brought everything to the crusher to grind it into materials. We notice there's a spot for a catalyst. Catalysts in Mortal Online 2 are used to increase the yield of your refinement, or, you know, at any other thing like at the furnace or anything like that. I will say that the values, it's percentage based on catalysts. but I, however, do not know these calculations, and some of them are not currently working. The only catalyst I can really give an example of would be water and rock oil. So it's going to be up to you to figure those out and figure out what gives you more results when refining. After hitting different trees and crushing granum rock, we have a bunch of different materials available to us, but some of them need to be broken down further. Amaranthum and blood ore, for example, will need to use the furnace to refine. Let's go to the furnace with the materials and see what we can do. Add the amaranthum, hold the start extraction. You don't know how to operate it. Okay, so we don't know how to use this workbench. Doesn't look like any of this is going to work. Okay. So we're probably going to have to learn some books. Let's make sure we go to the tutor first to get the basic stuff. Okay. It seems we don't have the knowledge to use the furnace. Let's grab some of our gold from the zombie heads and head to the library to see what books we can learn. Here we're at the extraction librarian. After we hit the use key on her, we can see furnace operation. We're going to assume this is what we need, but let's double check and make sure there's not any prerequisites that we need first. We press L to open our skills and type furnace. So we can see we need to learn thermal appliances and then furnace operation. We'll buy both of these. Learn thermal appliances. And then once this levels up, we'll learn furnace operation and go back to the furnace. Now we've learned furnace operation. Let's smelt some of this material down. We're going to try amaranthum first. And remember, if we knew the catalyst, we could get extra on our yield. We'll go up to it, hold down our use key. And then hold to start to extract. Just like the crusher, it has a timer based on the amount that we are refining. And here we can see our results. We got electrum, cuprum, calamine, and black. Now let's try to melt the blood ore. This material is too advanced for you to learn. Maybe you should do some research. Which brings me to my next point. Not only do you need to sometimes learn books to learn how to use certain appliances, but you also need to sometimes acquire lore via books to work with materials. Let's go back to the library and see if we can find a book on blood ore. At the library, we're going to go to the material lore librarian and look for blood ore. You can see it's here. Before we dive into that, let's check for prerequisite skills. So we can see in order to learn blood ore lore, we would have to have mineralogy. So we'll get the mineralogy. Learn that first. Once that is up, we will learn the blood ore and then go back to the furnace. Now at the furnace, with learning blood ore, we'll attempt to smelt it. After smelting the blood ore, we can see we got pig iron. This is a new material we can use to craft. After refining all these mats, let's take as many as we can from our bank and go see what we can craft. Now that we're at the weapon crafting station, we can see all we know how to make are daggers and one-handed swords. I'm looking for more of a two-hander. Back to the librarian. Now we're back at the library, this time at the crafting librarian. We want to make a two-hander. So let's open our skills and see what we need. We already have the prerequisite one-hand blade hilt crafting, but we might need to raise this. But I think we're going to need two-hand blade hilt crafting. Let's see if it allows us to use it. So, as we thought, we're going to need to raise up the other one a little bit higher because it requires more of it. So we'll buy the one-hand blade hilt. Hit use on that. Wait for this to go up. As we can see though, even with these increased gains we're currently under, the book raises very slowly. Ideally, you'll be leveling your crafting by making inferior weapons until your skill is higher. Let's go craft some of these to see some gains. Now we're back at the weapon crafting table. We will select swords one-handed. What type of hilt do we like? I like the guard hilt. Let's do dapple wood, and then the grip has to be leather. Bada bing. And then what about for the head? Let's try bone tissue. I don't know what any of these do. Okay, we can see that raised our skill much quicker than reading the book. It got us to 58. Let's craft another one. And so here, when you hover over it, you can see the stats. This was the first one when our skill was lower, right? And as we gain material lore or the skills of what we're crafting, the shape and the blade, this is the next craft. So we see we went up about 5 durability and then about 1.1 on the damage. And we can see the quality. It was bad quality and now it's poor quality. So when you're raising your crafting in game, you're going to have to make a lot of garbage before you make the good stuff. Short blade crafting. Okay. And now we should have enough skill to learn two-handers. So let's crank out some two-handers. Let's do the same materials. Uh-oh. We don't have any heads for two-handers. Back to the librarian. All right. So after going back to the crafting librarian, we should have everything to make two-hand swords. We need basic blade crafting, advanced blade crafting, and then great blade crafting. Have those over here. I'll speed this up and then we'll get right into it. We finally have great blade crafting learned. Let's see what we can make. Gonna open up the crafting table. Two-handed swords. What do we like? I like the ring. Let's do the same we did before. And then great blade, heavy great blade, crossguard blade, great Chris. Just use bone tissue. That raised our great blade crafting, our two-hand blade hilt crafting, advanced blade crafting, all that stuff. So bad quality as expected. So, and you can also make presets. So if I wanted to just raise my skills, you could do this. Skill Raiser. I should name it Skill Raiser. All right, done. And the cool thing is you can see your progression as you get better with them, right? Different blades do different things. Different handles do different things. You're going to need to mix and match and see, you know, what does what. As here we can see the great blade is lighter than the crisp blade. And as you can see, as the quality goes up, so do all the stats, the durability, all the different types of damage they do. Good quality. Almost to 100. So now we're at Great Blade Crafting 100. Let's see what the next one will do. And then impeccable quality. So now that we got the skill to 100 with these mats that we're using, this is the best quality we can make with those mats. So we've gotten the basics of crafting down. The same systems we just discovered are going to be the same for applying to all crafting. I will digress that alchemy is going to be much more complex and much more in depth. The reason I'm not going into depth on all these systems because that's not what this guide is about. Finding a special monster, bringing back its spoils will often produce equipment way beyond your imagination. It's up to you to figure out how to best use those materials. Will you be a merchant who sells their crafted goods, a smith who supplies an army for war, or a hunter that just wants to be self-sufficient? It's all up to you. I hope this guide was enough to get you on your feet with crafting Immortal Online 2. If you have any comments, make sure to leave them below. Thanks again, and this is Jonah Vale signing out.
Godspeed, my newbies.